Chapter 1 The arrival. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the sprawling sands of Giza. Just hours earlier, Paige had stood on the tarmac of Cairo International Airport, her heart racing with the thrill of adventure. The air had been thick with the scent of spices and the distant hum of bustling city life, a stark contrast to the serene isolation of the desert that awaited them. She could still hear Brad's laughter as he joked about the real-life mummies they might encounter, while Caitlin had rolled her eyes, her skepticism a familiar comfort. Ashley had been the most excited, her eyes sparkling with dreams of ancient treasures, while Mary-Kate had simply smiled, her quiet enthusiasm evident in the way she clutched her camera, ready to capture every moment. Now, as they set up camp near the Great Sphinx, the excitement was palpable. The colossal statue loomed over them, its enigmatic smile seeming to hold centuries of secrets. The girls busied themselves with their tents, laughter mingling with the soft whispers of the desert breeze. Brad and the others were unpacking supplies, but Paige found herself momentarily lost in the sight of the Sphinx, its weathered stone face illuminated by the fading light. "Hey, Earth to Paige," Caitlin called, snapping her fingers in front of her face. "You're not planning to get lost in thought before we even start exploring, are you?" Paige blinked, shaking off her reverie. "Sorry, just it is incredible, isn't it?" She gestured toward the Sphinx, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the ancient magic surrounding them. "Yeah, incredible," Caitlin replied, her tone teasing. "But we're not here to admire stone faces. We're here to have fun. Halloween in Egypt, remember?" Right, Paige said, forcing a smile. She turned back to the Sphinx, a shiver running down her spine. The legends she had read about echoed in her mind. The ghostly guardian that protected the pharaoh's secrets. She shook her head, dismissing the thought. Ghost stories were Halloween spirit, and each had donned costumes that blended ancient Egyptian motifs with modern flair. Paige wore a flowing white dress adorned with gold accents, her hair styled in loose waves that framed her face like a goddess. Caitlin had opted for a more daring look, a fitted black dress with golden hieroglyphs that hugged her curves, while Ashley had gone for a playful take on a pharaoh, complete with a faux gold crown. Mary-Kate, ever the minimalist, wore a simple linen tunic, her camera slung around her neck like a talisman. "Okay, who's ready for some ghost stories?" Brad announced, his voice booming over the crackle of the fire. He leaned forward, his eyes glinting with mischief. "I heard there's a legend about a guardian spirit that protects the Sphinx. They say if you listen closely at night, you can hear it whispering the secrets of the pharaohs." "Please," Caitlin scoffed, rolling her eyes. "That's just a tourist trap. You really think a ghost is going to show up just because we're here?" "Maybe it is not about showing up," Ashley chimed in, her voice low and conspiratorial. "Maybe it is about feeling its presence. You know, like a vibe. Or maybe it is just the sound of the wind," Caitlin shot back, but there was a hint of uncertainty in her voice. Paige felt a thrill of unease ripple through her. "What if it is true?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "What if the Sphinx really does have a guardian? What if it is watching us right now? Then we should probably stop talking about it," Mary-Kate said, her voice barely above a whisper. She glanced at the Sphinx, her eyes wide. "I don't want to anger any spirits tonight." Brad laughed, but there was a nervous edge to it. "Come on, it is just a story. Besides, we're here to have fun, right? Let's not let a little ghost scare us off." "Right," Caitlin said, her bravado returning. Let's do something fun. How about a Halloween scavenger hunt? We can split into teams and see who can find the best ancient treasure around here. Great idea, Ashley exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. I'll team up with Mary Kate. You two can be the ghost hunters. Fine by me, Caitlin said, crossing her arms with a smirk. Just don't cry when you lose. Paige felt a surge of excitement as they divided into teams, the tension from earlier glow over the landscape. Do you really think there's something out there? Brad asked, his voice low as they walked away from the firelight. Paige shrugged, her heart racing. I don't know. Part of me wants to believe it. It's just there's something about this place. It feels alive. Brad stopped, turning to face her. You're not scared, are you? Not scared, she replied, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. Just intrigued. He studied her for a moment, his expression softening. You know, you're kind of amazing, Paige. You have this way of seeing the world that makes everything feel more magical. Her cheeks flushed at the compliment, and she looked away, focusing on the Sphinx in the distance. I just think there's beauty in the unknown. It's what makes life interesting. Maybe you're right, he said, stepping closer. But sometimes, the unknown can be dangerous. Paige met his gaze, the air between them thick with unspoken tension. Are you saying I should be careful? Just don't let your curiosity lead you into trouble, he replied, his voice low and serious. I'd hate to see anything happen to you. Before she could respond, a sudden gust of wind swept through the camp, sending a chill down her spine. The fire flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced around them. Paige shivered, pulling her shawl tighter around her shoulders. Did you feel that? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, Brad said, glancing toward the Sphinx. It's just the wind, right? Right, she echoed, though doubt crept into her mind. The legends of the guardian spirit felt closer now, as if the very air around them was charged with ancient energy. Chapter 2 The cheeseburger curse. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert sands as Paige, Brad, Caitlin, Ashley, and Mary Kate settled into their first evening in Egypt. The air was thick with the scent of spices and grilled meats from nearby food stalls, mingling with the cool breeze that whispered secrets of the ancient past. They had just finished sharing ghost stories about the Sphinx, its enigmatic gaze following them as they laughed and teased one another. But as the laughter faded, an unsettling feeling lingered, like the echo of a distant drum. Did you hear that? Caitlin had asked, her voice barely above a whisper, eyes darting toward the darkening horizon. Just the wind, Brad had replied, his bravado masking a flicker of uncertainty. Or maybe it is the ghost of a cheeseburger past. He had laughed, but the joke hung in the air, heavy with an unspoken weight. Now, as they wandered toward a vibrant food stall adorned with colorful banners and twinkling lights, the earlier tension seemed to dissolve into the night. The stall was a riot of colors, with vendors calling out in a mix of Arabic and English, their voices rising and falling like a melody. The tantalizing aroma of grilled kebabs and fried falafel wafted through the air, mingling with the sweet scent of baklava. Look at that, Ashley exclaimed, pointing to a sign that read Best Cheeseburgers in Cairo. Who would have thought? Mary Kate chuckled, her eyes sparkling with mischief. I thought we were here for ancient wonders, not fast food. Hey, I was born out of a cheeseburger, Brad joked, puffing out his chest as if he were a proud parent. The group erupted into laughter, but a strange chill crept through Paige, as if the desert itself had paused to listen. Yeah, they gathered around a small table, the wooden surface warm from the sun, and dug into their meals. The cheeseburgers were surprisingly good, juicy and flavorful, topped with fresh vegetables and a tangy sauce that danced on their tongues. But as they ate, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter faded, replaced by a strange silence that enveloped them like a thick fog. "Did you guys feel that?" Ashley asked, her voice suddenly serious. "It's like the air just changed." "Yeah, it is like the desert is holding its breath," Caitlin added, glancing around as if expecting to see something lurking in the shadows. "Maybe it is the ghost of the cheeseburger," Brad joked again, but his smile faltered as he noticed the unease in their eyes. Paige looked up, her gaze drawn to the Sphinx looming in the distance, its stone face illuminated by the soft glow of the moon. It felt as though it were watching them, its ancient eyes filled with secrets and stories untold. She shivered, a chill running down her spine, and took a deep breath, trying to shake off the feeling. "Let's go check it out," she suggested, trying to sound enthusiastic. "I mean, we're in Egypt. We can't just sit here." The others exchanged glances, a mix of excitement and apprehension flickering across their faces. Finally, Brad nodded, his bravado returning. "All right, let's go see what the Sphinx has to say." As they made their way toward the Sphinx, the night deepened around them, the stars twinkling like diamonds scattered across a velvet sky. The path was uneven, the sand shifting beneath their feet, but the thrill of adventure propelled them forward. "Do you think it really is haunted?" Mary-Kate asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Haunted? Maybe," Brad replied, his tone light, but there was a hint of seriousness beneath it. "But I bet it is just a bunch of stories to scare tourists." "Or maybe it is a warning," Caitlin said, her eyes wide with intrigue. Them forward. As they approached, the air grew heavy, thick with an energy that made Paige's skin prickle. She could hear the whispers again, faint but insistent, like the rustling of leaves in a forgotten forest. It was as if the very stones of the Sphinx were alive, sharing secrets of the past. "Do you hear that?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Hear what?" Brad replied, his brow furrowing in confusion. "The whispers," she insisted, her heart racing. "It's like someone is trying to tell us something." "Paige, you're just imagining things," Ashley said gently, but there was a flicker of concern in her eyes. "No, really, it's like the Sphinx is trying to communicate with us," Paige pressed, her gaze locked on the stone face that seemed to watch them with an intensity that was almost palpable. "Okay, let's just take a picture and get out of here," Brad suggested, pulling out his phone. "Say, cheeseburger." As they posed in front of the Sphinx, the tension in the air thickened, and Paige felt a sudden rush of dizziness. The world around her blurred, colors swirling together like paint on a canvas. She stumbled, gripping the edge of the stone pedestal for support. "Paige," Caitlin exclaimed, rushing to her side. "Are you okay?" I don't know," Paige gasped, her heart pounding in her chest. "It's like I saw something from the past." "What do you mean?" Ashley asked, her voice laced with concern. "I saw a vision," Paige whispered, her breath coming in quick bursts. "There were people, ancient Egyptians, and they were scared. They were running from something." "Okay, that's it. We're leaving," Brad said firmly, his earlier bravado replaced by a sense of urgency. "This is getting weird." But as they turned to leave, the whispers grew louder, swirling around them like a tempest. The wind picked up, carrying with it the scent of something sweet and smoky, reminiscent of the cheeseburgers they had just eaten. "Wait!" Caitlin shouted, her eyes wide with fear. "Look!" The Sphinx seemed to shimmer in the moonlight, its stone surface rippling as if it were alive. The air crackled with energy, and for a moment, Paige felt a connection, a pull toward the ancient guardian that transcended time and space. "Brad, what did you say?" Chapter 3. The burning bush. The desert stretched endlessly before them, a vast expanse of golden sand that shimmered under the midday sun. In the previous chapter, Paige, Brad, Caitlin, Ashley, and Mary-Kate had arrived in Egypt, their excitement palpable as they set up camp near the Great Sphinx. They had reveled in local legends of a ghostly guardian, and as night fell, donned their Halloween costumes, drawing curious glances from the locals. But the laughter had turned to unease when strange occurrences began to unfold. Visions of the past flickering in their minds and whispers carried by the wind, all while the Sphinx seemed to watch them with an intensity that sent shivers down their spines. Now, the group found themselves venturing deeper into the desert, the sun hanging high in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the dunes. The air was thick with the scent of dry earth and the faintest hint of jasmine, a reminder of the vibrant life that thrived in this ancient land. As they walked, the laughter from the night before felt like a distant memory, replaced by an unsettling tension that hung in the air like a storm cloud. "Are we sure we should be doing this?" Caitlin asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She adjusted the straps of her backpack, glancing back at the distant silhouette of the Sphinx, which loomed like a sentinel over their journey. "Come on, it is just a little further," Brad replied, his tone light but his eyes betraying a flicker of uncertainty. "What's the worst that could happen? We find a few more ghost stories." Mary-Kate rolled her eyes, her confidence unwavering. Paige, ever the peacemaker, nodded in agreement. "Let's just stick together. If we find anything weird, we'll head back." "Deal." "Deal," Ashley chimed in, though her voice lacked its usual enthusiasm. She had been quiet since they left the Sphinx, her mind seemingly elsewhere. As they trekked further into the desert, the landscape began to change. The sand dunes rose higher, their peaks sharp against the azure sky, and the occasional rock formation jutted out like ancient sentinels. The sun beat down mercilessly, and the girls could feel the heat radiating off the ground, wrapping around them like a heavy blanket. Suddenly, a flicker of color caught Paige's eye. "Look!" she exclaimed, pointing ahead. "What's that?" In the distance, a vibrant orange glow flickered against the muted browns and yellows of the desert. Intrigued, the group quickened their pace, the heat forgotten as they approached the source of the light. As they drew closer, they realized it was a bush, its leaves ablaze with an otherworldly fire that danced and swayed as if alive. "Is that a burning bush?" Caitlin asked, her voice trembling with a mix of awe and fear. "It can't be," Brad replied, stepping forward. "That's just a myth, right?" But as they stood before it, the flames did not consume the bush. Instead, they flickered and crackled, casting an ethereal glow around them. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and something sweet, almost like incense. "Should we get closer?" Ashley asked, her eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and trepidation. "Let's just be careful," Paige cautioned, her heart racing. "This feels strange." As they approached, the flames seemed to pulse, and then, to their astonishment, a voice emerged from the fire, deep and resonant, echoing through the desert air. "Beware, children of the modern world. The sands of time shift beneath your feet, and the past is not as distant as you believe. The girls exchanged glances, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and fear. Did that bush just talk? Caitlin whispered, her voice barely audible over the crackling flames. Maybe it is just the heat getting to us, Brad suggested, though each of you carries a burden, the voice continued, undeterred. A fear, a desire, a truth yet unspoken. Approach, and you shall know. Mary-Kate, emboldened by the strange encounter, stepped forward. What do you mean? She asked, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. What do you know about us? The flames flickered, and for a moment, the air shimmered as if reality itself was bending. You seek adventure, yet fear the unknown. You long for freedom, yet are bound by expectations. Speak your truth, and the fire shall reveal. Paige felt a chill run down her spine. What truth? She murmured, her heart pounding in her chest. She glanced at her friends, their faces reflecting a myriad of emotions. Fear, curiosity, and something deeper that she couldn't quite place. Go on, Brad urged, his voice steadying as he stepped closer to the bush. What do you have to tell us? The flames roared, and suddenly, each girl felt a rush of heat enveloping them, as if the fire was reaching out to touch their very souls. Caitlin, the voice intoned, you fear the shadows of your past, the mistakes that haunt you. You desire acceptance, yet you hide behind a mask of perfection. Caitlin gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. That's not true. She protested, but the words felt hollow even to her ears. Mary-Kate, the voice continued, you seek validation in the eyes of others, yet fear that you will never be enough. Your heart yearns for love, yet you push it away. Mary-Kate's expression shifted, her bravado faltering as she looked down at her feet. I just want to be seen, she whispered, her voice cracking. Ashley, the voice said, you hide your pain behind laughter, yet your heart aches for understanding. You fear being vulnerable, yet crave connection. Ashley's eyes glistened with unshed tears, and she clenched her fists at her sides. I'm fine, she insisted, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her. Paige, the voice turned to her. Paige swallowed hard, her throat dry. I'm trying, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I just want to protect everyone. And Brad, the voice concluded, you seek to be the hero, yet fear the darkness within. You hide your insecurities behind a facade of strength, yet your heart yearns for acceptance. Brad's jaw tightened, and he took a step back, the weight of the words pressing down on him. I'm not afraid. Chapter 4. The ghostly encounter. The night air was thick with the scent of burning sage and the distant echoes of laughter from the nearby campfires. Paige, Brad, Caitlin, Ashley, and Mary-Kate had settled into their makeshift campsite near the Great Sphinx, the ancient stone guardian looming over them like a watchful sentinel. In the previous chapter, their excitement had turned to unease as they encountered strange visions and whispers that danced on the desert breeze. The girls had donned their Halloween costumes, a whimsical blend of ancient Egyptian motifs and modern flair, drawing curious glances from the locals. But it was Brad's light-hearted joke about being born out of a cheeseburger that had sparked laughter, and perhaps a hint of foreboding, as they ventured deeper into the mysteries of the desert. Now, gathered around the flickering campfire, the group felt the weight of the night pressing in around them. The flames crackled and popped, casting playful shadows that danced across their faces. The warmth of the fire was a comforting contrast to the cool desert air, but an undercurrent of tension rippled through the group, a shared awareness that something extraordinary, and perhaps dangerous, was about to unfold. "Okay, who's got a ghost story?" Caitlin asked, her voice teasing but laced with genuine curiosity. She leaned forward, her eyes sparkling in the firelight, the golden sequins of her costume glinting like stars. "I'll go first," Ashley chimed in, her enthusiasm infectious. "Did you guys hear about the ghost of the pharaoh who roams the desert at night? They say he's searching for his lost treasure, and anyone who crosses his path is doomed to wander the sands forever." Mary Kate rolled her eyes, but a smile tugged at her lip. "Everyone knows treasure hunters are the real danger out here." "Maybe," Brad interjected, his tone playful, "but I'd rather face a ghost than a bunch of angry locals if we accidentally dig up something we shouldn't." As laughter erupted around the fire, Paige felt a shiver run down her spine. She glanced at the Sphinx, its stone face illuminated by the moonlight, and for a fleeting moment, she thought she saw its eyes glimmer with an otherworldly light. Shaking off the sensation, she leaned closer to the fire, the heat warming her cheeks. "All right, my turn," she said, her voice steady despite the unease creeping into her thoughts. "There's a legend about the Sphinx itself. They say it was cursed to guard the secrets of the pharaohs, and if anyone dares to disturb its slumber, they'll face the wrath of the ancient spirits." "Sounds like a classic scare tactic," Brad replied, but his smile faltered as he caught Paige's gaze. "You really think there's any truth to it?" Before Paige could respond, a sudden gust of wind swept through the campsite, extinguishing the flames for a heartbeat. The darkness enveloped them, and a collective gasp echoed in the stillness. Just as quickly, the fire reignited, but the atmosphere had shifted. The air felt charged, electric, as if the desert itself held its breath. "Did you feel that?" Ashley whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. "Yeah," Caitlin replied, her eyes wide. "It was like something just passed through us." As if summoned by their words, a figure emerged from the shadows. The ghostly Sphinx, its form shimmering in the moonlight, stepped forward, its presence both majestic and terrifying. The girls froze, their hearts pounding in their chests, while Brad instinctively moved closer to Paige, his bravado faltering. "Do not be afraid," the Sphinx intoned, its voice resonating like the deep rumble of thunder. "I am bound to this land, cursed to guard the secrets of the pharaohs. I have watched over you, and I have seen your hearts. What do you want from us?" Mary Kate asked, her voice trembling, though she stood her ground. "I seek your help," the Sphinx replied, its eyes glowing. Paige felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Fear, curiosity, and an inexplicable pull toward the Sphinx. "What truth?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. "The truth of your own desires," the Sphinx said, its gaze piercing through each of them. "You have all received warnings, glimpses of your fears. But there is more to your journey than mere shadows. You must confront what lies within." The fire crackled ominously, and the girls exchanged glances, each grappling with the weight of the Sphinx's words. Brad stepped forward, his bravado returning. "We'll help you. Just tell us what we need to do." The Sphinx regarded him with a mixture of admiration and caution. "You must venture to the Temple of Secrets, where the ancient scrolls lie hidden. There, you will find the key to breaking my curse. But beware. The path is fraught with danger, and the spirits of the past will test your resolve." "What kind of danger?" Caitlin asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your greatest fears will manifest before you," the Sphinx warned. "Only by facing them can you hope to succeed." Paige felt a chill run down her spine. The cryptic messages from the burning bush echoed in her mind, each girl's deepest fears laid bare. What if they were forced to confront those fears head-on? Are we really going to do this? Ashley asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. We have to, Paige said, her heart racing. If we don't help, who knows what will happen to the Sphinx, or to us? The Sphinx nodded, its form shimmering in the moonlight. You have chosen wisely. Gather your courage, for the journey begins at dawn. As the Sphinx faded back into the shadows, the girls remained silent, the weight of their decision settling heavily upon them. The fire crackled softly, but the warmth it provided felt distant, overshadowed by the gravity of what lay ahead. Did that just happen? Brad finally broke the silence, his voice a mix. Paige felt a surge of determination. We can do this. Together. As they settled back around the fire, the night stretched on, filled with unspoken fears and uncharted possibilities. Each girl wrestled with her thoughts, the flickering flames casting shadows that danced like specters around them. But as the stars twinkled overhead, Paige couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, by more than just the Sphinx. The desert held secrets, and they were about to uncover them, whether they were ready or not. The night deepened, and the air grew colder, but the fire burned brightly, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Chapter 5. The parting of waters. The desert sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the shifting sands as Paige, Brad, Caitlin, Ashley, and Mary-Kate gathered their courage for the quest ahead. The ghostly Sphinx had revealed their mission: to find the ancient relic that could free it from its eternal curse. The air was thick with anticipation, each of them grappling with the weight of their own fears and desires, as the echoes of the burning bush's warnings lingered in their minds. They had come to Egypt seeking adventure, but now they were entwined in a tale far more profound than they had ever imagined. Are we really doing this? Caitlin asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as they stood at the edge of the oasis, the shimmering water reflecting the vibrant hues of the sunset. Of course we are, Brad replied, his bravado masking the uncertainty that flickered in his eyes. We can't let the Sphinx down. Besides, it is just a relic, right? How hard can it be? Famous last words, Ashley muttered, crossing her arms as she surveyed the landscape. The oasis was a breathtaking sight, a lush green paradise surrounded by the stark, unforgiving desert. It felt like a dream, but the weight of the group fell silent, their eyes drawn to the surface of the oasis. The water began to ripple, then swell, as if responding to an unseen force. With a sudden, miraculous surge, the waters parted, revealing a narrow path of dry earth leading to the other side. Gasps of disbelief escaped their lips, and a shiver of awe coursed through them. Just like Moses, Paige breathed, her heart racing. We have to go. Are you sure it is safe? Caitlin asked, her brow furrowing with concern. Safe? Probably not, Brad replied with a grin, but when has that ever stopped us? With a shared glance that spoke volumes, they stepped onto the path, the coolness of the earth beneath their feet contrasting sharply with the heat of the day. As they crossed, the air around them shimmered, and whispers seemed to dance on the breeze, echoing the secrets of the ancients. On the other side, the landscape transformed. They found themselves in a hidden temple, its entrance adorned with intricate carvings that told stories of gods and pharaohs long forgotten. The air was thick with the scent of incense and something sweet, almost intoxicating. Wow, Ashley breathed, her eyes wide as she took in the sight. This is incredible. Let's not get too comfortable, Brad cautioned, scanning the dimly lit interior. There could be traps. Or treasures, Mary-Kate added, her adventurous spirit ignited. As they ventured deeper into the temple, the atmosphere shifted. The walls seemed to close in around them, and the flickering torchlight cast eerie shadows that danced like specters. Each step echoed, amplifying their heartbeats as they moved cautiously, aware that they were intruding on sacred ground. "Look at this," Caitlin said, kneeling before a pedestal that held a small, ornate box. Its surface was covered in hieroglyphs, shimmering with an otherworldly glow. "This must be it. Or it could be a curse waiting to be unleashed," Ashley countered, her voice laced with apprehension. "Let's just open it," Mary-Kate urged, her excitement bubbling over. "What's the worst that could happen?" Before anyone could protest, she reached for the box. The moment her fingers brushed its surface, a low rumble reverberated through the temple, and the ground beneath them trembled. "Mary-Kate, no!" Caitlin shouted, but it was too late. The box sprang open, and a blinding light erupted, enveloping them in a radiant glow. They shielded their eyes, and when the light faded, they found themselves standing in a vast chamber filled with treasures beyond their wildest dreams. Gold glimmered in every corner, and ancient artifacts lay scattered like forgotten memories. "Is this real?" Brad whispered, awestruck. "It has to be," Paige replied, her voice trembling with excitement. "But we need to be careful. This place is ancient, and we don't know what we're dealing with." As they explored the chamber, the atmosphere grew heavier, the air thick with tension. Each artifact seemed to pulse with energy, and the whispers returned, swirling around them like a haunting melody. "Do you feel that?" Caitlin asked, her eyes darting around the room. "It's like something is watching us." "Maybe it is the guardians of the temple," Ashley suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. "We should leave." "Not yet," Mary-Kate insisted, her eyes gleaming with determination. "We can't leave without finding the relic." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the chamber, and the ground shook violently. The walls began to close in, and dust rained down from above. "Run!" Brad shouted, grabbing Mary-Kate's arm as beneath them cracked open, revealing a chasm that threatened to swallow them whole. "Jump!" Paige yelled, and without hesitation, they leapt across the widening gap, landing safely on the other side. Panting and breathless, they turned to face the temple, which now stood ominously silent, as if it had never been disturbed. "What just happened?" Caitlin gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. "I think we awakened something," Ashley replied, her voice shaky. "Something we weren't meant to find. Or maybe we found exactly what we were meant to," Brad said, his expression serious. "The Sphinx needs our help, and we can't turn back now." Mary-Kate nodded, her resolve unwavering. "We have to keep going. We're closer than ever." As they stood at the edge of the oasis, the water still shimmering behind them, a sense of purpose ignited within each of them. They had faced the unknown and emerged stronger, but the journey was far from over. "Let's find that relic," Paige said, determination etched on her face. "For the Sphinx, and for us." With a shared nod, they turned away from the temple, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The desert stretched out before them, vast and unyielding, but they were no longer just a group of friends on vacation. They were adventurers, bound by a shared destiny. As they walked, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow across the sands. Chapter 6 The Pyramid's Secret. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the hidden temple. The air was thick with anticipation, the scent of ancient stone mingling with the faint aroma of jasmine from the oasis they had just crossed. Paige, Brad, Caitlin, Ashley, and Mary-Kate stood in a semicircle, their hearts racing as they absorbed the way Sphinx had entrusted them with a quest, and now they were on the brink of uncovering a secret that had been buried for centuries. Earlier that evening, they had navigated through a labyrinth of traps and puzzles, each challenge revealing not only the temple's secrets but also the strengths and vulnerabilities of their group. Brad had shown unexpected bravery, while Caitlin's quick thinking had saved them from a collapsing ceiling. Yet, as they stood before the ancient map etched into the stone wall, a sense of foreboding settled over them. They were no longer just tourists. They were players in a game far older than any of them could comprehend. "Look at this," Paige said, her voice barely above a whisper as she traced her fingers over the intricate lines of the map. "It leads to a pyramid and it says something about Noah's Ark." "Seriously?" Ashley leaned in closer, her eyes wide with excitement. "Like, the actual Ark? I thought that was just a story." "Apparently not," Brad replied, his brow furrowed in concentration. "But there's something else." He pointed to a bizarre illustration at the base of the map. A camel with a human head, standing proudly atop the pyramid. "What do you think that means?" Mary-Kate shivered, glancing around the dimly lit chamber. "I don't know, but it feels like a warning. We should be careful." "Careful," Caitlin scoffed, her adventurous spirit ignited. "This is amazing. We can't just turn back now. We have to find the pyramid." As they debated their next move, the air crackled with tension. Each girl felt the weight of their individual fears and desires, the cryptic messages from the burning bush echoing in their minds. They were drawn together by a shared purpose, yet the unspoken doubts lingered just beneath the surface. "Okay, let's do it," Paige said, her voice steadying the group. "We'll follow the map, but we need to stick together. No one goes off on their own." With a collective nod, they set off deeper into the temple, the flickering torchlight casting long shadows on the walls. The atmosphere was thick with mystery, and every creak of the ancient stones seemed to whisper, "I hope so," Brad replied, glancing back at her. "But we have to prove ourselves first. This isn't just about breaking a curse. It is about understanding what we're up against." The group paused at a large stone door, its surface etched with more hieroglyphics. In the center, a circular indentation awaited a key they did not possess. The door loomed ominously, a barrier between them and the pyramid that promised answers. "Maybe we need to solve a riddle," Caitlin suggested, her eyes scanning the carvings. "It's always a riddle, right?" "Great. Just what I wanted," Mary-Kate muttered, crossing her arms. "More puzzles. Come on, it'll be fun," Caitlin insisted, her enthusiasm infectious. "Let's see what it says." As they gathered around the door, the hieroglyphics began to shimmer, revealing a riddle that echoed in their minds. "I am not alive, but I can grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. I don't have a mouth, but water kills me. What am I?" The group fell silent, each girl lost in thought. The riddle felt heavy, as if it were testing not just their intellect but their resolve. "Fire," Brad said suddenly, his voice breaking the stillness. "It has to be fire." "Fire," Mary-Kate echoed, her brow furrowing. "But how do we?" Before she could finish, Caitlin stepped forward, her heart racing. "We need to light something. There's got to be a way." "Wait," Paige exclaimed, her eyes widening. "What if we use the torches?" We can light them and see if that triggers something. With a sense of urgency, they gathered the torches and lit them, the flames flickering to life. As the fire danced, the door began to rumble, the hieroglyphics glowing brighter until the stone shifted, revealing a narrow passageway. "See, I told you," Caitlin beamed, her excitement palpable. "Let's go," Paige urged, leading the way into the darkness. The passage was cool and damp, the air thick with the scent of earth and stone. They moved cautiously, the flickering flames casting eerie shadows that seemed to follow them. As they emerged into a vast chamber, their breath caught in their throats. The pyramid loomed before them, its majestic structure rising from the ground like a sentinel of the past. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings, and the air was charged with an energy that made the hairs on their arms stand on end. "Wow," Ashley breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's even more incredible than I imagined. Look at that." Brad pointed to a pedestal at the base of the pyramid, where a small, ornate box rested. "That must be the relic we need. Should we take it?" Mary-Kate asked, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. "We have to," Paige replied, stepping forward. "It's the only way to help the Sphinx." As they approached the pedestal, a low rumble echoed through the chamber, and the ground beneath them trembled. The pyramid seemed to awaken, its stones shifting as if responding to their presence. Guys," Caitlin's voice quivered. "I think we should hurry." With a sense of urgency, they reached for the box, but as Paige lifted it, the chamber erupted with a blinding light. The walls shook violently, and the air crackled with energy. They stumbled back, shielding their eyes as the light enveloped them. "Hold on," Brad shouted, grabbing Paige's arm as they were thrown to the ground. When the light faded, they found themselves standing in a vast desert, the pyramid now a distant silhouette against the horizon. Confused and disoriented, they looked around, trying to make sense of what had just happened. "What just?" Ashley began, but her words were cut off by a sudden realization. Chapter 7. The Ark's revelation. The air inside the pyramid was thick with anticipation, a palpable tension that clung to the skin like the desert heat outside. As Paige, Brad, Caitlin, Ashley, and Mary-Kate stepped through the ancient stone entrance, the echoes of their footsteps reverberated against the cold walls, a reminder of the countless souls who had walked this path before them. Just moments ago, they had solved the riddle guarding the entrance, a feat that had left them breathless and exhilarated. Now, they stood on the threshold of a revelation that could change everything. The dim light of their flashlights flickered across the walls, illuminating intricate hieroglyphics that danced in the shadows. Each carving seemed to whisper secrets of the past, tales of gods and pharaohs intertwined with the fates of those who dared to enter. The air was thick with the scent of ancient dust and something else. Something sweet and intoxicating, like the promise of adventure. "Are you ready for this?" Brad asked, his voice low and steady, though the slight tremor in his hands betrayed his bravado. He glanced at each of the girls, gauging their reactions. "I didn't come all this way to turn back now," Caitlin replied, her eyes sparkling with determination. She stepped forward, leading the way into the heart of the pyramid. As they moved deeper into the chamber, the atmosphere shifted. The walls closed in, and the air grew cooler, almost damp. The group entered a vast hall, its ceiling lost in darkness, but the center of the room was illuminated by an otherworldly glow. There, resting on a pedestal of stone, was Noah's Ark, a magnificent vessel carved from ancient wood, its surface etched with symbols that pulsed with a faint light. "Is that?" Ashley gasped, her voice barely above a whisper. "It is," Paige confirmed, her heart racing. Noah's Ark. But as they approached, the beauty of the ark was overshadowed by the strange creatures and spirits that surrounded it. Ethereal beings floated in the air, their forms shifting and shimmering like mirages. Some appeared as animals, others as human figures draped in tattered robes, their faces a blend of sorrow and longing. "What are they?" "Centuries." The moment they stepped closer, the spirits turned their gaze upon them, their eyes filled with an ancient wisdom that sent chills down Paige's spine. She felt an inexplicable connection to them, as if they were calling out to her, urging her to understand their plight. "Do you feel that?" Caitlin murmured, her voice barely audible. "It's like they're alive." "Maybe they are," Ashley replied, her eyes wide with wonder. "Maybe they're tied to the ark." As if in response to their presence, the spirits began to swirl around them, their whispers growing louder, forming a cacophony of voices that filled the chamber. Each girl felt a rush of emotions, memories flooding their minds. Visions of lives lived long ago, of battles fought and lost, of love and betrayal echoing through time. "Paige!" Caitlin shouted, breaking through the noise. "Look!" Paige turned to see a spirit hovering near her, its translucent form flickering like a candle in the wind. It reached out a hand, and in that moment, Paige was transported to another time, another place. She stood in a grand hall, adorned with gold and jewels, surrounded by figures dressed in regal attire. A woman, strikingly beautiful, stood before her, her eyes filled with a fierce determination. "Find the truth," the woman whispered, her voice echoing in Paige's mind. "You are the key." Suddenly, the vision shattered, and Paige stumbled back, gasping for breath. The chamber spun around her, the spirits swirling like a tempest. "Paige!" Brad caught her, steadying her as she regained her footing. "What happened?" I saw something," she stammered, her heart racing. "A woman. She said I'm the key." "The key to what?" Ashley asked, her brow furrowed in concern. "I don't know," Paige admitted, her voice trembling. "But I think it has to do with the curse." The spirits began to converge, their forms coalescing into a single figure. A regal woman draped in flowing robes, her eyes piercing and wise. She stepped forward, her presence commanding the attention of everyone in the room. "Children of the past," she intoned, her voice resonating like a bell. "You have come seeking the truth, and the truth shall be revealed. But first, you must confront your fears." "What do you mean?" Caitlin asked, her voice steady despite the fear creeping into her heart. "Each of you carries a burden, a fear that binds you to this place," the spirit explained. "To free the ark and break the curse, you must face what you have hidden away." The air crackled with tension as the girls exchanged glances, uncertainty etched on their faces. "I can't do this," Mary-Kate whispered, her voice barely audible. "What if we can't handle it?" "You have to," Brad urged, his eyes locked on Paige. "We're in this together." Paige took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. "We can do this. We have to." As if sensing their resolve, the spirits began to shift, forming a circle around the girls. One by one, they stepped forward, each facing the spirit that represented their deepest fear. Caitlin was the first to step into the circle. The spirit before her morphed into a dark figure, a shadowy version of herself, embodying her insecurities and self-doubt. "You are not enough," it hissed, its voice dripping with malice. "You will always be second best." Caitlin's breath hitched, but she stood her ground. "No, I am enough. I've fought for everything I have, and I won't let you take that from me." With a fierce determination, she reached out to the spirit, and as her hand made contact, a blinding light erupted, engulfing the shadow. The darkness dissipated, leaving only a shimmering essence that floated away, free at last. Next was Ashley. The spirit that confronted her took the form of a monstrous beast, a representation of her fear of failure. "You will never succeed," it growled, baring its teeth. "You will always be a disappointment." "No," Ashley shouted, her voice ringing with defiance. "I refuse to believe that. I will succeed, and I will prove you wrong." With a surge of courage, she charged at the beast, and as she did, it dissolved into a cloud of mist, freeing her from the chains of her fear. Mary-Kate hesitated, her spirit taking the form of a ghostly figure that mirrored her own insecurities. "You are alone," it whispered, its voice echoing with loneliness. Chapter 8. The final confrontation. The air inside the pyramid was thick with the scent of ancient dust and the weight of forgotten histories. The flickering light from their torches cast long shadows on the walls, illuminating hieroglyphics that whispered secrets of a time long past. Paige, Brad, Caitlin, Ashley, and Mary-Kate stood in a circle, their hearts racing as they faced the daunting task ahead. Just moments ago, they had discovered that one of them was tied to the very lineage of the pharaohs, a revelation that sent shivers down their spines. Now, they were tasked with freeing the spirits trapped within Noah's Ark, a challenge that seemed insurmountable. As they prepared to confront the spirits, the air shifted, growing colder, and an unsettling silence enveloped them. The ghostly Sphinx materialized before them, its form shifting from a mere apparition to something more tangible, more menacing. Its eyes glowed with an ethereal light, piercing through the darkness, and its voice echoed like thunder in the confined space. "You dare to challenge the guardians of this realm?" It boomed, the sound reverberating through the stone walls. "You are but children playing with forces beyond your understanding." Paige stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "We're not afraid of you. We know what you are and what you want. We're here to help the spirits, to break your curse." The Sphinx's laughter was a chilling sound, like the rustle of dry leaves in a desolate desert. "Help? You think you can help? You are bound by your own fears and desires. You cannot even save yourselves." Caitlin, emboldened by Paige's courage, shouted, "We've faced our fears. We've come this far, and we won't back down now." The Sphinx's expression shifted, a flicker of doubt crossing its features. "Very well. If you wish to confront your destinies, then let the steady despite the chaos. Stay together. We can do this," he urged, his eyes scanning the swirling sand for any sign of the Sphinx. As the storm subsided, the Sphinx loomed larger than before, its form now a grotesque blend of man and beast, muscles rippling beneath its golden fur. The air crackled with tension, and the girls could feel the weight of their fears pressing down on them. Each one of them had something to lose, something that the Sphinx seemed to sense. Mary-Kate, trembling, whispered, "What if we can't do it? What if we fail?" "Then we fight anyway," Ashley replied, her voice fierce. "We've come too far to give up now." The Sphinx lunged forward, its claws outstretched, and the girls scattered, instinctively forming a defensive circle. They had learned to harness their newfound powers, but now they had to put them to the test. Caitlin raised her hands, summoning a wave of energy that crackled like electricity. It shot toward the Sphinx, but it deflected the attack with a flick of its tail, sending Caitlin sprawling backward. "Is that all you have?" the Sphinx taunted, its voice dripping with disdain. Paige felt a surge of anger rise within her. No, we're stronger than you think. She closed her eyes, recalling the visions they had seen in the temple, the spirits that had guided them. She focused on the connection she felt to the pharaohs, the power that coursed through her veins. With a deep breath, she unleashed a burst of light that illuminated the chamber, momentarily blinding the Sphinx. Now! She shouted, and the girls rallied around her, their hands joined, channeling their collective energy into a single force. The light intensified, swirling around them like a protective barrier. The Sphinx roared in fury, its form shifting as it tried to break through the barrier. You think you can bind me? I am eternal. But the girls stood firm, their resolve unyielding. We are not afraid of you. Brad shouted, stepping forward despite the chaos. You may be of fear and determination. Brad, no, Paige cried, but it was too late. He charged at the Sphinx, his body glowing with an otherworldly light. I'll protect them, he shouted, and with a fierce cry, he leapt into the air, aiming for the Sphinx's heart. The impact was explosive. Brad collided with the Sphinx, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. The force of his sacrifice sent shockwaves through the chamber, and the Sphinx staggered back, its form flickering as if it were losing its grip on reality. Foolish boy. The Sphinx roared, but there was a hint of panic in its voice. You cannot save them. But Brad's sacrifice had awakened something deep within the girls. They felt the power of their lineage surging through them, a connection to the spirits trapped within Noah's Ark. They could hear their whispers, urging them to fight, to reclaim their destinies. Together, Paige shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. We can do this. With renewed determination, the girls focused their energy, channeling it into a single beam of light that shot toward the Sphinx. The creature howled in rage, but it was too late. The light engulfed it, illuminating the chamber in a blinding brilliance. As the light faded, the Sphinx's form began to dissolve, its features softening until it was nothing more than a wisp of smoke. You may have won this battle, it whispered, its voice echoing in the silence. But the war is far from over. With that, the Sphinx vanished, leaving the girls breathless and trembling. They turned to Brad, who lay on the ground, his body glowing faintly. Brad. Paige rushed to his side, her heart racing. Are you okay? He opened his eyes, a weak smile on his lips. I think I did it, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. I think I saved you. Tears filled Paige's eyes as she knelt beside him, the weight of their victory settling in. You were incredible, she said, her voice choked with emotion. You sacrificed everything for us. Brad's smile faded slightly, and he looked at each of the girls, his gaze lingering on Caitlin. I didn't just. Chapter 9. The curse broke and the desert night was thick with tension, the air shimmering with the remnants of magic and sacrifice. Just moments ago, Brad had thrown himself into the fray, his bravery igniting a spark of hope in the hearts of his friends. The ghostly Sphinx, once a menacing figure shrouded in shadows, had revealed its true form, a majestic guardian, now freed from the chains of its curse. As the spirits of the Ancient Ones swirled around them, the girls felt the weight of their journey lift, but the cost of their victory loomed heavy in the air. Paige stood at the center of the temple, her heart racing as she processed the events that had unfolded. The echoes of Brad's sacrifice reverberated in her mind, a haunting reminder of the price they had paid. She glanced at Caitlin, Ashley, and Mary-Kate, each of them grappling with their own emotions, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the spirits surrounding them. Is it really over? Caitlin whispered, her voice barely audible above the whispers of the freed souls. Did we really break the curse? The Sphinx, now a figure of ethereal beauty, nodded slowly, its golden eyes shimmering with gratitude. You have shown courage beyond measure. The curse that bound me has been lifted, and the spirits are free to find peace. But your journey is not yet complete. What do you mean? Ashley asked, her brow furrowed with concern. We did what you asked. We faced our fears, we fought for you. What more could you want? The Sphinx's gaze softened, and it gestured toward the center of the temple, where a shimmering light began to coalesce. As a reward for your bravery, you are granted a wish. But be warned. Wishes are powerful, and their consequences can be unforeseen. Mary-Kate stepped forward, her heart pounding. We want Brad back, she declared, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. He sacrificed himself for us. He deserves to come back. The Sphinx regarded her with a mixture of admiration and caution. A noble wish, indeed. But remember, the heart's desire is often intertwined with the threads of fate. What you wish for may not be what you expect. Paige felt a knot form in her stomach. The Sphinx's expression turned solemn. The choice is yours, but the wish will alter the fabric of your lives. Consider carefully what you desire. The girls exchanged glances, the weight of their decision pressing down on them. They had come to Egypt seeking adventure, but they had found something far deeper. A connection to each other, to their pasts, and to the spirits that had once walked the earth. But could they truly bring Brad back without consequences? Let's do it, Caitlin said, her voice firm. We can't leave him behind. He deserves to be with us. Ashley nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. He saved us. We owe it to him. Mary-Kate took a deep breath, her resolve strengthening. Then it is settled. We wish for Brad to return. The Sphinx raised its head, the light around them intensifying. Speak your wish aloud, and it shall be granted. Paige stepped forward, her heart racing. We wish for Brad to come back to us. As the words left her lips, the light enveloped them, swirling around like a tempest. The air crackled with energy, and the girls felt a rush of warmth wash over them. For a moment, time stood still, and they were suspended in a cocoon of hope and fear. Then, just as suddenly, the light dissipated, leaving them breathless and disoriented. The temple fell silent, the spirits hovering around them, their expressions a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. Is he back? Ashley asked, her voice trembling. Paige's heart raced as she scanned the room, searching for any sign of Brad. Brad! She called, her voice echoing in the stillness. And then, from the shadows, a figure emerged. It was Brad, his familiar silhouette stepping into the light. Hey, guys, he said, a smile breaking across his face. But it didn't reach his eyes. I'm back. The girls rushed forward, enveloping him in a group hug, laughter mingling with tears. But as Paige held him close, she felt a chill run down her spine. Something was off. Are you okay? She asked, pulling back to look into his eyes. You seem different. Brad's smile faltered for a moment, and he glanced at the Sphinx, who watched them with an inscrutable expression. I'm fine, he replied, but the way he said it felt rehearsed, as if he were trying to convince himself as much as them. Let's get out of here, Caitlin suggested, her voice brightening. We've been through enough for one night. As they made their way out of the temple, Paige couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed within Brad. He walked beside her, but there was a distance in his gaze, as if he were looking through her rather than at her. The laughter of her friends echoed around her, but the joy felt tinged with an undercurrent of unease. Once outside, the cool desert air washed over them, a stark contrast to the warmth of the temple. The stars twinkled above, a vast canvas of possibilities, but Paige felt a knot of anxiety tightening in her chest. "Let's celebrate," Ashley exclaimed, her voice bright. "We did it. We broke the curse." "Yeah, we did," Brad said, his tone flat. He looked up at the stars, his expression distant. "It's good to be back." Paige exchanged glances with Caitlin and Mary-Kate, each of them sensing the shift in the atmosphere. "Brad, are you sure you're okay?" she pressed, her concern deepening. "I'm fine," he insisted, but the way he said it felt like a mantra, a shield against the truth. As they made their way back to their campsite, the laughter of the girls filled the air, but Paige couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking just beneath the surface. The Sphinx had warned them about the consequences of their wish, and as they settled around the campfire, the flickering flames casting shadows on their faces, she felt a sense of foreboding settle over her. "Brad, tell us what it was like," Mary-Kate urged, her eyes wide with curiosity. "What did you see?" He hesitated, his gaze flickering to the fire. "It was strange. I felt like I was in between worlds. I could see you all." Chapter 10. Halloween in Egypt. The desert air was thick with the scent of sandalwood and spices, mingling with the cool night breeze that swept across the campsite. The stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across a velvet sky, illuminating the silhouettes of the Great Sphinx and the nearby pyramids. The girls, Paige, Caitlin, Ashley, and Mary-Kate, had returned from their harrowing adventure, transformed not just by the trials they faced, but by the bonds they forged in the crucible of fear and courage. Brad's sacrifice still weighed heavily on their hearts, a bittersweet reminder of the price of bravery. As they settled around the flickering campfire, the flames danced like spirits, casting playful shadows on their faces. The warmth enveloped them, a stark contrast to the chill of the desert night. Each girl wore a costume that blended the ancient with the modern, a nod to their Halloween celebration, yet a reflection of their journey through time and myth. Paige, dressed as a modern-day Cleopatra, twirled a golden bracelet around her wrist, her mind racing with thoughts of what had transpired. Caitlin, in a flowing white gown reminiscent of an ancient priestess, stared into the fire, her expression pensive. Ashley, sporting a pharaoh's headdress, was animatedly recounting their adventure, her voice a mixture of excitement and disbelief. Mary-Kate, dressed as a mystical goddess, sat quietly, her eyes reflecting the flames, lost in her own thoughts. "Can you believe we actually freed the Sphinx?" Ashley exclaimed, her laughter ringing out into the night. "I mean, who would have thought we'd be battling ancient curses and spirits?" "It feels like a dream," Caitlin replied, her brow furrowed. "But what about Brad? He sacrificed himself for us. It doesn't feel right to celebrate." Paige nodded, her heart heavy. "He was brave. We owe it to him to honor his memory. He believed in us, and we need to believe in ourselves now." Mary-Kate finally spoke, her voice soft yet firm. "We should make a toast. To Brad, to friendship, and to the adventures that await us." The girls raised their cups of spiced tea, the warmth of the liquid contrasting with the chill in the air. "To Brad," they echoed, their voices mingling with the whispers of the desert wind. As they sipped their tea, the atmosphere shifted. The fire crackled, and the shadows seemed to elongate, twisting and turning as if alive. The Sphinx, now free from its curse, stood sentinel in the distance, its gaze unwavering. The girls felt a strange pull, a connection that transcended time and space. "Do you think it is really over?" Caitlin asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Paige replied, her eyes fixed on the Sphinx. "But I have a feeling this isn't the last we'll see of it." Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the desert, causing the ground to tremble beneath them. The girls exchanged nervous glances, their laughter fading into silence. The Sphinx's eyes glowed faintly, and a new inscription appeared on its base, shimmering in the moonlight. "What does it say?" Ashley asked, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and curiosity. Paige stood, her heart racing as she approached the Sphinx. The inscription was written in ancient hieroglyphs, but she felt an inexplicable understanding wash over her. It says, "The journey continues. Seek the hidden truths, for they shall reveal the path ahead." "What does that even mean?" Mary-Kate asked, her brow furrowing. "It means there's more to discover," Paige replied, her pulse quickening. "More mysteries, more adventures. We've only scratched the surface." The girls exchanged glances, a mixture of excitement and trepidation coursing through them. They had faced the unknown and emerged stronger, but the thought of more challenges ahead was daunting. "Maybe we should just enjoy tonight," Caitlin suggested, her voice steadier now. "We've earned it." "Right," Ashley chimed in, her enthusiasm returning. "Let's celebrate Halloween. We can tell ghost stories, play games, and just be us." As the night wore on, the girls shared tales of their fears and dreams, their laughter echoing through the desert. They played games under the stars, their spirits lifted by the camaraderie they had forged. But beneath the surface, the weight of their experiences lingered, a reminder of the As the fire began to dwindle, Paige felt a sense of peace wash over her. They had faced darkness and emerged into the light, and for the first time since Brad's sacrifice, she felt a flicker of hope. "You know," she said, her voice steady, "I think we can do anything together." "We've proven that." Caitlin nodded, her eyes shining. "We're stronger than we think. And we have each other." Mary-Kate smiled, her expression softening. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." The girls huddled closer, the warmth of their friendship enveloping them like a protective cloak. The desert night was alive with the sounds of nature. The rustle of leaves, the distant call of an owl, and the soft whisper of the wind. It was a reminder that they were not alone, that the universe conspired to guide them on their journey. As the last embers of the fire flickered out, Paige glanced back at the Sphinx one final time. Its gaze seemed to pierce through the darkness, a silent promise of the adventures yet to come. She felt a surge of determination, a sense that they were destined for greatness. "Let's make a pact," she said, her voice resolute. "No matter what happens, we'll always stick together. We'll face whatever challenges come our way." The girls nodded in agreement, their hearts united in purpose. They had faced the unknown and emerged stronger, and now they were ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. As they settled into their sleeping bags, the stars twinkled above, a celestial audience to their unbreakable bond. The desert air was cool, but the warmth of their friendship kept the chill at bay. They drifted off to sleep, dreams filled with the promise of new adventures and the echoes of their laughter lingering in the night. But as the moon hung high in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the landscape, a shadow moved near the Sphinx. The inscription glowed brighter, pulsating with energy, as if responding to an unseen force. The air crackled with anticipation, hinting at the mysteries yet to unfold. And somewhere in the depths of the desert, a whisper echoed, ready to embrace it, hand in hand, heart to heart.